As I was saying, my battery just died. So, my battery did not have very good not very good endurance, perseverance. So, I had to get another one. So, that's what modern ninja or shinobi would be: modern espionage, modern stealth, and secrecy, and all those kinds of black ops and that kind of stuff. So, am I that? No, I'm not a CIA agent, and I'm not a special forces warrior or commando. I'm not that either. And this is not a video for me to say I am or I am not a ninja, or I am or I am not a shinobi. This is just a dialogue to get people to open their minds and say, what is it and what isn't. When I first started training in ninjutsu, 2004, yeah, I was told the idea of just practicing ninjutsu, or a form of ninjutsu, or ninja tactics, or shinobi tactics, just practicing that, you are now ninja. That's the day you've started training. Now, I don't think that's true either. It's not like you go to school to be a professional photographer or a videographer or a filmmaker, and the second you start to go to college for it, you're not a filmmaker. You're a filmmaker once you graduate and you kind of start your first couple projects, something like that. That idea. So, I know Anthony Cummings. I've read his books and listened to a lot of him talk about it, and he doesn't call himself a ninja, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying I am one or I'm not one. Here's just my philosophy behind it. If, let's say, somebody is training to become a CIA officer, let's say they go through the training, they become an officer, they get their tag or whatever it is, they get their license to kill, 007. Is that person at that time a CIA agent? Most people would say yes. So, is it because they haven't done any missions yet that there are or they aren't an agent? So, would a ninja be or not be a ninja if just because they haven't scaled castle walls and stolen documents or scouted out missions? But those people, let's say a ninja. Okay, so let's just switch to a different page. Use the same analogy for somebody in the 1600s or the 1500s training in ninjutsu or some form of martial art for Shinobi no Jutsu, or ninja training, or back then the ninja didn't exist. It was Shinobi and Shinobi no Jutsu. Shinobi or ninja wasn't a term until after in the 1900s sometime, and it was ninja first, S-H-A, and nin-sha, and then it became ninja, a person who endures, a person that perseveres, a person who is stealths, or person that does secret things. So, Shinobi no Jutsu, if you trained in that kind of style or those art forms, and where you're learning how to build a ladder and make a makeshift rope, and then learning how to make fires and shoot fire arrows, and learning how to be observant and observe topography and take things down, write things down properly. So you have to learn how to read and write, basically. You had to learn about a little bit of astronomy or astrology, and learn how to get close to the enemy. Learning how to stealth, of course, and being secretive and quiet, and learning how to have endurance, and all the things that learning how to frame somebody, how to cause distractions, how to use fire in many different ways, how to different tactics for taijutsu and movement and combat, and learning how to be patient and wait for 2 days in one little spot or a day before you can move, and learning how to count the enemy soldiers properly and write that down and bring it bringing it back for your lord. So let's say you're just at least training in those tactics. Are you or are you not a ninja by doing all those things? Let's say that person that is training all that stuff has not done a real ninja mission yet, which is kind of hard to believe because the second you start going out and scouting and doing certain tactics and, raising a banner and shooting a fire arrow to call your allies to come into the castle, or whatever it is you're doing, those are ninja missions. But like, let's say you've trained in all those things and you haven't done any of that yet in a real warlike situation. Are you or are you not a ninja because you haven't done a real ninja mission yet? Let's say, so I would say you would need to complete your training under your master or under your lord before you get your, just like, you complete your training as a CIA agent and you get your tag, and it's like you are now qualified to do actions that a CIA agent would do. Like when you graduate school to be a chemical engineer, and bad example because I don't know what jobs chemical engineers do, but architect or an engineer, to engineer a car or a building, or engineering for a bridge or something like that. Once you graduate from school for that thing, and you get that title that says you are now authorized and capable of doing this task, then at that time I think you would be called a ninja, shinobi, or a whatever it is, commercial airline pilot, because you've done your 1,500 hours of airline pilot and you've got your license to fly and you have all your hours and you now are qualified for that task that you've now chosen. That's when I think that happens actually. So I actually didn't think about that before this conversation. So that actually is, in my opinion, when you would be qualified to call yourself that. So that's up to your teacher and your master or your mentor or whoever it is that's training you. And then of course, if you look down the line and if you've practiced in all these techniques that a real shinobi or a real ninja would practice, and no, I personally haven't I've scaled walls and trees with a rope and other tools and run on top of another person to get up into a tree and flip up backwards onto rooftops and stuff like that. So hasn't been, actually, when I was in Europe, no, we couldn't do much. We would have got kicked out if we tried to climb anything in the castles over there. So no, I haven't really climbed up a castle wall either, but I've climbed up a lot of rock walls. I've done rock climbing. I've done rock climbing at a gym with all the climbing gyms and stuff like that. I've done real rock climbing, obviously with ropes and blade, and rappelled down and climbed up. And I didn't do much of the leading. I did, maybe I might have led like a very short, or just did like a free climb, very short free climb, but it wasn't really big on the, it wasn't like, I didn't become a professional climber or anything. So just like kind of intermediate climbing skills, but I would call that climbing. I would call that definitely climbing, like climbing a castle wall. Castle wall-esque. Nobody, unless they're like doing this for 60, 80 years, like maybe a master or grandmaster, then you can kind of cover almost every area that a ninja would have covered, and it goes into like all the combat stuff, hand-to-hand combat stuff, all the fire training, all the, training with guns, training, because if you bring modern day into it, special forces training, which I've done a little bit of that too. Mental training, psychological training. A ninjutsu shinobi would have to use psychological tricks if they got in close and they got close to the enemy, and they had to be doing deception and seduction, and then also sabotage and framing somebody and getting close and getting close into somebody's personal life and into their secret life. So you had to learn psychology and all those tools for that kind of work, which I've also done too. As a side note, I've studied cognitive behavioral therapy and psychology and psychotherapy and psychoanalyzing. So I study people that psychoanalyze things, and I psychoanalyze. It's a fancy word, but it's just, you just look, when I see something, I analyze it psychologically. That's all what you're doing. You go, oh, that person is, got bipolar and histrionic and cluster B disorders and antisocial behaviors. Oh, and they are displaying narcissistic behavior. And oh, if I wanted to get that person under my control psychologically or manipulate them, then you got to learn about how their psychology is. And so if they're narcissistic, then you make it all about them and you give them all your attention and you do exactly what they want you to do. So you can kind of get into, get into their good graces. And so you can also, they can also come in and do things for you. So watch the movie or watch the show The Jackal with Eddie Redmayne. Amazing. That is exactly what a shinobi is and ancient ninja would be doing. And modern CIA, of course, and MI6. And, he's a sniper that became a contract killer. And that's not a spoiler alert, but that's what the show's about. And, so. Anyways, are you or are you not a ninja or a shinobi? And when I first started ninjutsu, you're not, in my opinion, you're not a ninja or a shinobi when you just start your training. That's silly nonsense. And if you're young, that's going to get into young people's brains and make them feel their ego is going to kind of fill up a little bit. And I've seen that, and I never had a problem with that, but I saw that in other people. I always trained I always trained just for the training. We didn't have rank. We had a little bit of rank, but it wasn't like belt levels. And it wasn't like, your skill, it was a merit-based kind of idea. And your skill level, and if you had the skill level, then you got higher up in the hierarchy, if you can even call it that. But there was red belt, which was instructor status, and then there was black belt. Nobody had ever gotten black belt with that particular teacher of mine. But I got my red belt with them, and I'm not going to go into who that is or who that was, but maybe I will. But at some point. But anyways, black belt for him was, after you get red belt, you'd have to teach for 2 years. So I basically got my black belt because I taught after that. I had left the group and did my own thing, and I was teaching other things, and yoga and qigong and tai chi and a little bit of martial arts, and then I started learning a different style of martial arts, and now I'm basically I'm doing a lot of teaching on camera, but yeah, I'll get back into teaching with people again. Anyways, so are you or are you not a shinobi? That's the question. So I think we have some insight and some wisdom and some more answers for you and for myself even. So like and subscribe. And I thought this was going to be a short video, so if you hang in here to the very end, thank you so much. That means you really are interested in these kinds of things and deeper thought. So like, subscribe, and share information as much as you want, and train hard, train, get off your asses, train hard, learn, read the books, study, be a scholar, be a warrior, and I'll see you guys next time.